and welcome to the very first episode of Do the Best Work of Your Life. I'm joined today by Zoe and Ollie, who you're going to meet in just a second. And this is episode 1, where we're going to be talking about the employee life cycle. We hope that you really enjoy it and will join us for the entire series. We'll be running a webinar every month for the next 10 months following the employee life cycle. And our sole aim is to help you fall back in love with the reason you went into HR and learning and development in the first place by looking at how technology should be enabling you, not hindering you in your roles. And we're going to put a real focus on the role that AI is going to play now, today and tomorrow in your work. So getting straight into it, we're going to be talking about the employee life cycle, really focusing on why people should be at the heart of every business and how tech is supposed to be enabling that employee life cycle. But before we get into it, let's meet Zoe and Ollie, who are going to feature throughout the entire series. So we hope that you love them as much as we do. So Zoe, hi.
Hello.
Hi. Do you want to introduce yourself just quickly?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm Zoe Wilson. I'm founder of Rethink HR. We're an HR systems consultancy, and we help businesses of all sizes, all different sectors, to select the right systems and to implement them.
Ollie.
Hi, I'm Ollie Quayle. I am an AI evangelist from the Access Group. Number of years in both HCM, learning and development technology. And I'm a real tech evangelist at heart. So I really want to make sure that we can ensure that tech supports this journey. And, I pretty much say it as I see it. So it's...
You do. And we're looking forward to that because you're very knowledgeable. And for those of you who don't know about the Access Group, we're one of the largest software providers in the UK. We're here to represent the people division and talk a little bit about the portfolio that we have, which stretches, again, across the employee life cycle, from HR to payroll to learning and development and employee engagement. And throughout the series, we're going to be touching on all of those technologies. But again, we're going to really focus on AI. So let's get into it. So the employee life cycle. I guess the first thing we should explore is how the employee life cycle has changed over recent times, and what today's challenges are for our HR and learning and development leaders. So Zoe, I don't know if you want to kick us off.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's changed significantly, especially since lockdown and lots of remote working and things, going from kind of onboarding to offboarding. There's so many different things that people expect to be done differently now as well, from remote interviews and onboarding processes, sometimes going through your whole employee life cycle, never actually meeting your colleagues and things, which is something we wouldn't have dreamed of.
So true.
Yeah. But through to actually people's expectations, juggling new generations as well, different kinds of jobs, green jobs, people expecting companies to be really socially responsible, looking to people that they really kind of engage with value-wise. But I think people are getting sort of approached left, right and centre for roles as well. Headhunting is quite fierce. The competition is really fierce. But also skills shortages in all these new roles. It's quite hard. So I think the learning and development aspect of needing to kind of bring people on, build those skills, knowledge, experiences within your organisations. And those that are larger are looking at kind of their own universities, their own tools and things to really kind of grow their own. And smaller businesses are really trying to kind of work on their brands and try and attract people so they can take a little bit of that as well.
And we're going to run a couple of episodes over the next coming months on how to attract talent, how to recruit talent, how to onboard talent. And we'll be doing deep dives together into some of those topics. But I guess from an HR perspective, when we think about from talent acquisition to offboarding, do we think that the employee life cycle has changed? Is there a lot more focus on retention, for example?
Yes, there is. There's more challenge in retaining people. I think that piece around attraction initially, you need to go a lot further.
Yeah.
But actually, it is making people feel that they belong and everybody is so individual and unique. That's a real challenge. And I think it's something that's quite exciting about technology, because you can start to personalize things.
Yes.
We get that all the time when we're looking on Facebook and get ads for things and whatever. There's really clever algorithms, and actually we can work a lot smarter and utilize some of this technology to really engage and make people feel.
And it's the natural cycle, isn't it? The consumer world leads the business world. So
Absolutely.
the expectations have risen massively from that. Yeah, I think it's definitely a challenge we're seeing on the tech side as well, trying to keep up with these multi-billion or trillion companies and their consumer approach. Now everybody's just expecting that in their business life. So the expectations have gone completely up, but the number of resources to support it, I don't think has at the same time.
Exactly. And I think that's something that we wanted to really kind of delve into. So I guess what we're saying is the employee life cycle has changed. There's been some massive shifts, particularly post-COVID. That's put a lot of pressure on HR, learning and development. We don't need to go into that. I think everybody's well versed in that. But I think what hasn't changed, and this is where I'll bring you in, Ollie, is that kind of tech overload. So I know in the work that you do, Zoe, we've talked about this before, almost the pain of all these disparate systems that have been integrated to create that kind of deep set of functionality versus that kind of unified broad set. Let's talk a little bit about, I guess, the buzzwords, the Frankenstack, right? What is that? Let's define it for people. Zoe, I'd love you to talk a little bit about some of the clients that you work with and what some of the challenges are that they're asking you to solve. So, Ollie, I'm going to start with you around that Frankenstack piece. What is it?
Yeah, so Frankenstack, the way I see it, I try and boil it down and make it super simple. You either go broad, and it might not be as deep in everywhere, so you get the breadth of a unified solution that will take you all the way from attracting through to offboarding, all in one system, including your payroll, including your learning, everything that you need all in one place. And then on the other side, you've got much deeper capability of a point solution, because that's all they're focusing on. They might just be focusing on recruitment or only focusing on learning. So they go to a lot greater depth. And I think it's, again, nobody makes a bad decision. I know there's no bad decisions here when it comes to technology. It's just, is it the right decision for you at the time? And I think when I speak to a lot of customers, what they've found is the promise of that depth is not necessarily realized, because it takes a lot of time, energy, and effort. You've got to implement it. The number of times you say, well, it does that, but you've configured it wrongly because it's quite complex. Then there's the overhead of managing each one of these, whether it's the supplier relationship or whether it's the data and knitting that together. And oftentimes, you go in there and you just make an assumption. You think, well, I'll take product A and product B and I'll integrate them. And of course, this will flow from here to here. And I think what's happening now is the customers that I speak to are saying, the promise didn't quite live up.
Yeah,
I'm spending too much time on the tech, not enough time with my people.
Yeah.
And so I really think that Frankenstack, what was it called, sorry? Frankenstack is a great intention. It was the right thing to do to get the depth, but you're not leveraging that depth if you're spending all your time servicing the integration between those 2 points.
And I guess there's a difference between trying to integrate an HR and payroll, right? Because lots of companies have done that. But then over time, you're constantly bolting on a bit of this, a bit of that, and that's where we get this concept of the Frankenstack. So Zoe, that must be bringing good business to rethink HR in terms of help, right?
It is, yeah, when you look at system optimization, which is another thing that we'll do. But I think from the initial selection piece as well, we see it go round in cycles. I think when I first started in this career and got an interest for tech, it was very much go with the one system all in. Then it was best of breed, as you said, the Frankenstack approach. We got lots of people, and it is starting to shift in the selection projects that we do at the moment. People are sort of wising up to the fact that integrations aren't as smooth as they think. When you go through a process and two products say, yes, we can integrate, there's usually not that deep conversation about how complex it might be, whether they can even get it working, let alone the cost and development time that's required. And you're quite right, that's only the start of it. Then it's the maintenance of it.
Yeah.
When you're adding and customizing here,
yeah,
what's the impact on everything else that it's feeding? And it gets quite complicated. So we are seeing this cycle, and I think we'll come on to later. I think this kind of want to embrace AI is also making people think, actually, if I've got things in lots of different places,
how's it going to work?
How is it going to work? Yeah, we're setting ourselves up for the future.
And the analytics as well. I mean, when it comes to all of this stuff, you know, sometimes you've really got to keep it simple, get that breadth, and then add to the depth in a unified way rather than jumping straight to the depth. But yeah, it's a difficult one because I can absolutely understand how you would just assume that these things work nicely
There's
together.
a lot of polish going on, isn't there?
Yeah. And I think, you know, us, you know, the tech people are sometimes a bit guilty of saying this is it beautiful, but within, you know, we can't outsource that complexity back to the HR teams or the learning development teams.
So let's just take a little pause there. So we've actually just commissioned a report which really talks about how much these, I'm going to use the word disparate systems, the Frankenstack, whatever you want to call it, the integrated set, is really distracting our HR and L&D professionals from doing the work that they really love. Coming back to what our series is about, we're really passionate at Access people to help them get back to doing what they love, which is why we've called it Do the Best Work of Your Life. Mm-hmm. So how much of an impact is the technology and perhaps the lack of integration, the problems that's potentially causing, distracting our HR and L&D professionals from actually doing the bit that they love? I mean, Zoe, you must see this all the time.
I'd say hugely, because it impacts the end user. It impacts those people that you're wanting to attract, engage, develop, retain. If they're not happy because your systems aren't giving you what you need, and it means it's a poor experience in whatever vein, whether that's your learning and development or it's your onboarding process. People can be switched off really easily, and we find that actually when you've got something that kind of makes sense and is logical and it all looks and feels the same, it's easy to maintain. It's easy to use the analytics to actually drive decisions and get things out a lot more easier. But yeah, I think it makes it harder for the HR team to manage and do their work, but also because they're having to deal with lots of people where things aren't working.
Yeah. And the piece I wanted to talk about was, because this is not just about surfacing some of the challenges and the issues, I also want to make these episodes really super helpful for our audience. So let's talk a little bit about AI analytics, the role that they can play in terms of some of the challenges which we've surfaced around the kind of the technology is not enabling our HR and L&D leaders as much as we would want it to. So there's kind of two things for me, because there will be hopefully people watching the series who are in that situation now, perhaps established businesses who have gone down that road of, you know, first started off with an HR and payroll, then integrated a bit of this, a bit of that, and they've ended up with that kind of integrated set of solutions. But there are also growing businesses who we want to help and say, look, here are some of the pitfalls that you want to think about. And I think that brings us nicely to talk about the AI and analytics. I can see you're itching, Ollie. You love it.
I'm itching.
Is it a saviour to all of this?
You know, for years it's been overhyped. But I think we really are now at that tipping point where it really is. And I really do, you know, as an evangelist, of course, I'm going to say this, but you need to get on board now, because the rate of change is happening so quickly.
Isn't it though?
And if you can embrace it now, you can deliver those employee experiences. You can save your time so that you're spending your time on the things that really matter, while also delivering on your organizational objectives. So I really think now is that time. And I know it's been hyped, and I know people are sick to the back teeth of hearing about it, but it kind of hit that point maybe a year ago. But now, as always, it started in the consumer land, and now it's filtering into business. And if you get on board with it now, you'd be amazed at how much time that can free up. It can simplify your life. It can outsource a lot of the admin that you're doing day to day, a lot of that stuff that is really low value. It's just low value stuff that can just be.
So let's break it down. If I'm a small growing business and I've perhaps got my primary tech in place, so I've got an HR solution of some sort, I've got a payroll solution of some sort, they talk to each other. What's our message to them in terms of future-proofing their business from an AI and analytics perspective?
So for me, I think everyone, as I said at the start, everyone makes the right decision at the right time.
Correct.
Right now, we are really at a step change, just like when we went from on-prem to cloud. But this is even bigger, right? This is an even bigger step change. Everyone made the right decision for them at that point in time, whether it was HR, payroll, learning, whatever it is that you want to do. You made that right decision based on your requirements at that time. The world has changed so much with what you can now do with AI and with the analytics. It might be the right time to have an inflection point and say, did this system actually deliver the value that we thought it was going to deliver? Did it? If yes, then of course, then you can then go to the next step, which is, well, will it deliver the value in the future? Will AI and analytics be able to wrap around and be able to easily produce the correct answer with the right security roles and permissions without an enormous overhead for my teams? Because again, you could just be creating another rod for your own back. So I think it's a really good time to just step back, did it deliver the value, the systems deliver the value that I thought? Now looking at what systems are going to be delivering when they're embedded with AI, when you've got automated analytics straight out the box. In order to do that, you need to bring all of your data into one place for both AI and for the analytics. Is my current setup fit for purpose for the new dawn? Which again, it's already happening and it's already in flight.
I do find that a lot of HR directors or teams, they actually don't know the art of the possible yet as well, especially at that size of business. It's like, okay, I sort of know what AI is. I've played a bit with ChatGPT. I'm starting to hear a bit of buzz in the HR forums around AI, but can I afford it? How do I configure it? What do I do with it? Making the use cases for me is a really good place to start. So yeah, where can I have efficiencies? Where do I need to improve my employee experience? Thinking about how you might be able to do that. What are the pain points? And then is AI the answer? Most of the time, hopefully, yes, Golly. But I think, yeah, those use cases along with the whole, what do I need in the future? And actually, what's the development roadmap for my current product? Is it going to serve me, or do I need to start looking at the market? All the sales guys and girls love to demo the latest thing.
But what's going through my mind listening to you guys is, if I'm an HR or an L&D leader, regardless of the size of my business, I'm not a tech expert. So who should they be working with in order to drive the right technology agenda, to build the right platform framework to support them doing the best work of their life?
It's a real collaboration, and it is all of the senior team in one. There might be pockets of the organisation that are already using a lot of AI in what they do. Some of your workforce might be using AI in a lot of the delivery to clients and things. But it is finding out what's already going on. Is there a strategic part of the organisation that wants to embrace this? Is it in your HR strategy, or does it need to be thought about to actually build the business case and put that in the strategy as well? But it's one of the things when we do selection work with clients, it is a team effort from all parts of the business. So you need to understand the need.
Who are the key people, Zoe? So let's talk about larger businesses who've got that Frankenstack, those disparate systems. Who should they be pulling in? Because HR might be able to drive it from a requirements perspective.
Yeah.
But they're not the guys that's coming up with the tech answers.
No, absolutely. It is speaking obviously to the tech guys and girls, the IT teams, yeah. But also procurement will know all of the different kind of terms and contracts and the headache that is with the negotiation of all these different systems and things. Getting manager experience, like the real on the ground, what's really hindering performance, that might be attracting or delivering productivity. I think also finance are key players in this as well. There's lots, and marketing teams, employee experience teams. There's all these other teams that are coming out of the woodwork that I didn't have when I started my HR career. But the engagement piece is a really key thing. The cultural piece, there's just a lot around marketing, whether you're looking at the kind of attraction side or the retention side. You want employee stories. You want people to think, wow, yeah, I'm proud of working for this organisation. And again, that's all through social media and tech. And so it needs to be a broader strategy. It needs to fit in with
You also miss your vendors, right? I mean, you should absolutely be speaking to them because, again, how invested are they in solving those challenges rather than pushing the technology?
Your tech vendor.
Yeah, are they partnering with you?
Are they partnering or are they pushing?
Or are they just selling you software?
And again, I just want to make, and it's maybe not the right time, but we're sort of almost talking about AI as if it's a product, as if it's a module that you just bolt on top of everything that you've got. You can't do that.
No, and it's probably because I think a lot of HR tech is slightly behind the times and we're just seeing a lot of it being released now. I think HR teams have been chomping at the bit. If you're not using like a tier 1 product, you've been waiting for this to come. If you don't want to develop your own piece in-house or have a bolt-on wraparound, then you're waiting for your vendors to release the software that they've been working on.
So let's just come back to the point that Ollie made, because I think that's really interesting, because we're talking about AI in a way that we assume that our audience really understands what it is. And I think you've nailed it there, Ollie. I think there's a lot of our customers are thinking about AI as if it's a product that I need to buy and bolt on to my existing system. It's not. No, Talk to us about that.
Yeah. So, I mean, if you think about what we've already talked about the challenges of having disparate systems and integrating them, roles and permissions, the security, all of those things that are just, again, you might have assumed were easy to manage and maintain. Well, you need to therefore have, the AI needs to understand who the company is, because you don't want any information bleeding outside of your company. You have to know what that person has access to view and see, right? What can your roles and permissions give you? And also make sure it's personally private, right? To make sure that information isn't somehow accessible. So in order to do all of those things as AI, but simply bolting that on the top, it would take you years to plumb that together to obey by those rules and permissions. So really the AI component has to be embedded in the underlying products. And if that's a series of separate, disparate products that you've integrated together, which in my mind seems really complicated, or if you've got the unified platform, if you have AI embedded into that platform, it can automatically know those roles and permissions, automatically keep your company secure, and you can make sure that it's personally private. So you get all the benefit of that, but without that headache of trying to infuse it into every single product, because, again, it's a step change, again, on top of it. And I think realistically, you really do need to have something that's unifying your systems, and then the AI can be embedded in that system rather than trying to put something on top.
Okay, so let's try and wrap it up. So we've covered employee life cycle, the challenges that's causing for HR and L&D leaders in the market. We've talked about established businesses having potentially challenges with the disparate systems, the overpromise of smooth integrations that probably weren't as polished as they would have hoped. So we've given some advice to smaller businesses to think about what their technology strategy needs to look like in the future. And we've touched on how AI can work, provided you've got some sort of infrastructure that it can tap into.
So you mentioned about retainment. If you've got some stuff that is really retaining employees, well, that should be the same thing that's attracting. Absolutely. And if it's on the singles platform and you've got AI infused in it, it's going to be super easy for you to take best practice of what you're doing for retention and use it to attract. Just, there's one less thing to worry about on top of all the other things, and it's not robbing you of time that should be spent with your employees.
But you can also rely on your vendors if you've got questions, queries, issues as well. If it's all in the one, your HR product or your L&D software, etc.
One back to pat, I think they say.
Yeah, like it. Yeah,
one back to pat. Well, we're going to leave it there because we've touched on a lot. Zoe, Ollie, thank you. Our next episode will be touching on talent acquisition, so attracting talent into your business. We're going to be joined by Zoe and Ollie again. Again, we'll be looking at the challenges of technology, how we enable HR and L&D professionals to do the best work of their life. We'll be really focusing on AI, so I would invite you to sign up for the next episode, and we'd love to see you then. Thank you very much.